The day my uncle arrived with eviction papers, I thought I had lost everything Grandpa left behind. But just as I was packing my bags, my phone rang. What the caller revealed shattered my family's lies and exposed a secret they had hidden for years. My name is Ethan Carter, and for most of my life, Grandpa Walter was the only person who ever truly believed in me, while my parents spent years comparing me to my older brother. Ryan, Grandpa never did. "You're different, Ethan," he'd always say while sitting on the dock behind his lake house. The lake house sat on the edge of Silver Pine Lake, surrounded by towering trees and calm water that reflected the sunrise every morning. It wasn't a mansion, it wasn't worth millions, but to me, was home. Every summer growing up, Grandpa and Deatho, and Deatho, and Deatho, and Deatho, and Deatho. Look at this. And we all know I've been exploring that. And we all know I've been exploring that bad. I've just been with God says. Reflected the sunrise every night. It wasn't a Deatho, with Bapade. It was to see. I've said becobbed, we cattle again, un with K, aftergway, to sevdaftak. I would see with Kawaisti and at we f with Kelly can kai to see you to kai to see we get a no see we kai we I to get to kari you can we do such a I guide to you can we to I kunistic I you f it I with side I with we I I spent weeks there fishing, fixing old furniture, and talking about life. Those memories meant more to me than any amount of money ever could. When Grandpa passed away at 83, felt like someone had ripped a piece of my heart out. The funeral was packed. Family members I hadn't seen in years suddenly appeared. Aunts, uncles, cousins, people who barely visited Grandpa while he was alive now stood in expensive clothes pretending to mourn. Something about it felt wrong. I noticed Uncle Richard especially. He kept glancing around the room like he was waiting for something. Richard was Grandpa's oldest son, a successful oldest man, or at least that's how he described himself. Everyone in the family treated him like he was important. I knew a different version, the version who borrowed money and never paid it back. The version who only visited Grandpa when he needed something, still. I stayed quiet. The funeral wasn't the place for arguments. A week later, family gathered at a law office for the reading of Grandpa's will. The atmosphere felt tense. Everyone sat stiffly in leather chairs. Richard looked confident. Ryan looked excited. Even my mother kept smiling. Then the attorney opened the file, according to Walter Carter's final wishes. The room became silent. The lawyer continued. Most financial assets will be divided equally among Walter's children. Richard nodded proudly. Then the lawyer turned the page. However, ownership of the Silver Pine Lake House is transferred solely to Ethan Carter. The room froze. I honestly thought I had misheard him. "What?" Richard shouted. The lawyer adjusted his glasses. "The property is left entirely to Ethan." Richard stood up. "It's impossible." My mother looked shocked. Ryan nearly choked. Meanwhile, sat there speechless. Grandpa had left the lake house to me. Nobody spoke for several seconds. Then chaos erupted. There must be a mistake. That's not fair. Why would Dad do that? The attorney calmly held up another document. There is also a personal letter. My heart started pounding. The lawyer unfolded the paper. It was Grandpa's handwriting. Even from across the room. Right. I recognized it instantly. The attorney began reading. "You're hearing this? Then I've finally gone fishing somewhere better." A few people laughed softly. Then his message continued. Ethan spent more time at the lake house than anyone. He helped maintain it. He respected it. He loved it. The room grew quiet. The house was never about money. It was about family. Ethan understands that. My throat tightened. Grandpa's words felt like he was sitting beside me one last time, but not everyone shared that feeling. Richard's face turned red. His jaw clenched. I knew immediately he wasn't going to accept this. The moment the meeting ended, he cornered me in the parking lot. "You manipulated him." I stared at him. "What? You heard me?" His voice dropped. "You took advantage of an old man?" Anger rose inside me. I loved Grandpa. Richard laughed bitterly. "And now you conveniently own his property." I walked away. Arguing wouldn't change anything, or so I thought. For the next month, things remained relatively quiet. I moved into the lake house permanently. The peaceful surroundings helped me heal every morning. I sat on the dock drinking coffee. Every evening I watched sunsets paint the water orange and gold. For the first time in years, I felt at peace. Then strange things started happening. Small things at first. Someone broke a porch light. A mailbox was knocked over. Tire tracks appeared on the lawn. I tried convincing myself it was random vandalism, until one night around midnight, headlights appeared outside. I looked through the window. A black SUV sat near the driveway. The engine idled for several minutes. Then it drove away. The next morning, I found a note attached to my front door. It contained only 5 words. "You don't belong here." No signature, no explanation. Just those words. A chill ran down my spine. I called the sheriff's office. They took a report but had little to go on. Weeks passed. The harassment continued. Broken windows, anonymous calls, threatening letters. Each incident pushed me closer to my limit. Then one afternoon, everything escalated. I was repairing a section of the dock when 3 vehicles pulled into the driveway. My stomach dropped. Richard stepped out first. Behind him came my mother, Ryan, several cousins, even Aunt Linda. They marched toward me like they were preparing for battle. "What is this?" I asked. Richard handed me an envelope. "Read it." I opened it. My heart sank. "Eviction papers?" I looked up. "What are you doing?" Richard crossed his arms. "We've challenged the will." "You can't be serious." "Oh, we're very serious." The family stood behind him. Not one person defended me. Not one. Ryan smirked. "You should have seen this coming. Felt betrayed, humiliated, furious, double quotes. This is Grandpa's decision." Richard pointed toward the house. "That property belongs to the family. It's his family property." His eyes narrowed. "No." He took a step closer. "It belongs to us." The emphasis on the final word sent chills down my spine. Something wasn't right. This wasn't about money anymore. There was something else, something bigger. I could see it in Richard's face. He wasn't fighting for sentimental reasons. He looked desperate, terrified, even as if losing the lake house would expose something he couldn't afford to reveal. But what? I had no idea. The following weeks became a nightmare. Lawyers, court filings, threats. The stress consumed my life. One evening, after meeting with my attorney, I returned home exhausted. Rain pounded the roof. Thunder echoed across the lake. I sat alone in Grandpa's old chair, staring at the fireplace for the first time. I wondered if giving up might be easier. Then I noticed something. A loose floorboard near the bookshelf. I'd walked past it hundreds of times, yet somehow never noticed. Curious. I grabbed a flashlight. The board lifted surprisingly easily. Underneath was a small metal box. My pulse quickened. The box looked old, very old. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside sat several photographs, a bundle of letters, and one sealed envelope across the front. Written in Grandpa's unmistakable handwriting were 6 words. "For Ethan, open only if necessary." Outside, thunder exploded across the lake. Inside, my heart pounded because at that exact moment, I realized Grandpa had known something was coming. And whatever was inside that envelope might explain why my family was so desperate to force me out. I slowly reached for it. Then my phone suddenly rang. The caller ID showed a number I didn't recognize, and what the stranger said changed everything. The moment I answered that unknown call, A calm voice spoke one sentence that made my blood run cold. Ethan, don't trust anyone in your family. The lake house isn't what you think it is. And just like that, everything I believed about Grandpa and my family started falling apart. The rain hammered against the windows as I stood frozen in Grandpa's study. The metal box still open on the floor, my phone pressed tightly against my ear. "Hello?" I whispered. A pause. Then the voice came again, low, steady, almost cautious. "Ethan Carter." "Yes, who is this?" Another pause. Like the caller was deciding how much to say. "This is Daniel Hargrove. You used to work with your grandfather." My grip tightened. "Work with him." "In what way?" The man exhaled. "Legal matters. Property matters. Things your family never wanted you to know." My stomach sank. I looked at the sealed envelope in my hands. Grandpa's handwriting stared back at me like it was alive. Daniel continued. "Ethan, are you alone?" "Yes," I said, though my voice cracked slightly. "That's important. Listen carefully. Do not tell anyone you opened that box." My heart began racing. What is going on? "My uncle is trying to evict me. There are court filings." "They're saying the house belongs to the family. They're lying," Daniel interrupted sharply. The silence that followed felt heavier than the storm outside. "What do you mean, lying?" Daniel lowered his voice. "That lake house was never just a home. It was part of a legal holding structure your grandfather created years ago." I looked down at the floorboards. "What kind of structure? A trust?" My breath caught. "But not the kind your family thinks it is." I slowly sank into Grandpa's old chair. "Explain." Daniel hesitated again. Then he said the words that changed everything. "That property was placed under a sealed inheritance trust. And your Uncle Richard tried to break it once before. He failed." My mind snapped back to the funeral. Richard's face, his anger, his disbelief. It wasn't just frustration, it was recognition. He already knew. Daniel continued. "Your grandfather suspected someone in the family would eventually try to take control of the lake house. So he added conditions.